Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to continue on with the Mold Apocalypse series. We're on number 7. And in today's decode, you will see a mold-possessed building in the TV series Archive 81. We also may cover some of The Last of Us, in which there was a clown sighting in that TV series. So that's what we're going to get into today. Now, what is the TV series Archive 81? Well, it basically depicts a portal opening in the basement of a building, and as a result of that, mold takes over the building. It's almost like a pit that opens, and it allows evil into our reality. Now, this was a decode of note with a surprise plot twist at the end that you're not even going to believe. There's also a 5G component to it. Well, let's hop into this. And then we'll see if we can get to The Last of Us today as well. Good morning, everybody. Let's pull you guys up here. Okay, cool. We're set. All right. Here we go. Let's take a look.
Now, today we're going to get into Archive 81, and this one definitely creeped me out. Why? Because the series gets very specific about things that only we've covered recently on this channel. They talk about how DNA collection companies are secretly searching for people in certain bloodlines. They discuss the Russian nesting dolls. And they also talk about how time travel is really spirit possession or communication with demonic entities. The series even discusses how black goo that's held in these canopic jars is really about ancient fallen DNA and portals for demons to transfer through into the future, into our modern times. They also talk about night terrors and how somatic sound resonance is the mechanism for creation, but it also is being used by the enemy to try to pierce the veil or to break through the firmament. So before we get into this montage, let me give you the backdrop of this series, Archive 81. So this man here stumbles across this video and some audio tapes as well that are recorded by this woman. And the woman recorded them back in 1984, and this guy is reviewing the material in the present time. And this woman was actually investigating a demonic cult that operated out of this apartment building called the Visser, V-I-S-S-E-R. Now, Visser, of course, to me sounds like hisser, which was what snakes do, but there's more. Now, this guy's approached by this wealthy man from some secret company that they can't find out what this company is all about. And this man tells him that he'll pay him $100,000 to seclude himself at a very high security, creepy house out in the middle of the woods. Why? So he could repair, edit, and view the videotapes that were retrieved when the fire broke out in the Visser and burned it to the ground. Now remember this fire aspect to this, because this is going to come back around at the end of the decode. So as he begins to decode these tapes, he realizes that he is actually front and center and very much a part of this plot of this sick, twisted nightmare that he finds himself in. He ends up seeing beyond the veil and he is able to look through time to see this woman in the video recordings from 1994, but she sees him too in some weird time paradox thing going on. Now, he realizes that she is trapped between now and 1994 when the portal was opened just before the fire. And he tries to save her. How? By reopening the portal. But what happens at the end of the series, he finds himself trapped in 1994. Now, we'll get more into this, but there's another aspect to the series that's very important. The cult is actually a comet mold cult. Now, the mold is the visible sign, they say, that the alternate universe is starting to spread into ours. And they always do their sacrifices during these close approaches of comets. Now, the comet that they worship in the series, the name actually sounds like Corona. Now, of course, this was all filmed and made after the start of the spamdemic, but you're going to see elements of everything we've talked about the end game of what VidCo really is, what the purpose of it is, and where it's all headed in the future. Now, for those of you that have followed this channel for the last 10 years, you know that we've talked about the dark spiritual nature of comets and how they were thought to cause disease or bring about disease or mark the beginning of periods of disease. And we had found in the book of Ezekiel that there was this strange passage that describes abominations inside of walls in the cult of Tammuz. Now, I'm starting to wonder, are these abominations inside of walls? Is this like the mold that grows inside of walls? Well, we're going to answer all of that today and when we get into this montage. And we'll get into the mold later, because in the decode, I believe that this is one of the bioweapons of the enemy that will infect mankind with these toxins that thin the veil between the spirit realm and ours, opening people up to possession. Think of it as, imagine like we all got dosed with ayahuasca. Well, the mold has mycotoxins in it too that begin to affect the mind and brain, and also open people up to spiritual battle. So, as you can see, much of what we've been covering on this channel in the recent years is in the series. It's like a magnum opus of all the work that we've done here in the last 10 years. So let's start to pull this series apart. Let me make sure you guys are with me.
Now, if you're just tuning in, we are doing a re-upload from like 2022. I believe this is when this uploaded, of the TV series Archive 81, which is about a mold-possessed building. Let's keep going here.
Then we'll get into a mask, of course. Let's play this first part. Now, this first part is all about, in my opinion, 23andMe, because the series reveals that this DNA collection company called Wellspring, it was just a cover to find these people from a specific bloodline, and their blood was the only blood that could open up these portals. And what they would do is they would pour the blood onto this graven image, and it would open the portal. Let's watch.
We're all searching for something. Find your history. Find yourself. Give yourself the gift of knowing who you really are. Order your personal DNA kit today and give yourself the gift of knowing who you really are. Order your personal DNA kit today and receive 50% off your first report. Wellspring, your story starts here.
Now, let me get the volume right on here. I don't want you guys to not be able to hear me, so that they can search out this specific bloodline that they need to pierce the veil. Now, the family bloodline they're looking for is called Baldoon. Now, I did not dig into Baldoon and what that might mean. I didn't search the word because there's so much we're going to cover today, you guys. We're going to probably be on here the full hour. So I don't want to overwhelm you because you can go down 100 rabbit holes with these kinds of decodes. But if any of you want to research Baldoon and what that might mean, Baldun, feel free to do that and put it in the chat if you find anything interesting. Now, let's keep watching here.
Wellspring. This guy has some kind of a DNA company that he shut down. I mean, I think it's just a big front for collecting personal data.
Baldoon could mean like bald, right? Like alopecia. So there's one clue. Let's keep listening.
Who is he looking for?
Now, they drop a lot of F-bombs in here, so every time you see it skip like that, I'm trying to skip out the F-bomb. It's weird. It's almost as if in the series, every time a nugget of truth was dropped, they would drop the F-bomb right along with it.
He's looking for someone, babe. And why the is there blood in these refrigerators? Look at this.
Now, this next part, he's going to mention the nested reality. Things within things. Now, we've had many discussions about the nested reality. As you guys know, we figured out that basically we live in a Russian doll's universe where smaller things represent larger things. And the most basic example of this would be the elemental chart, the periodic table, showing all of the elements. And there's videos here on YouTube that actually show that the elements are separated by nothing more than the number of electrons and the number of shells, because these electrons form shells around the nucleus of the atom. And in many instances also there are different numbers of protons and electrons, but mostly it's the shells of how many electrons they have, orbiting the outside of the atom. And so heavy elements have more shells and more protons and neutrons, and lighter elements and gases have less. And that's kind of how it works. The nested reality. Now, if we think about nests, we think about trees, don't we? Nests are in trees, aren't they? So let's keep watching here and listen to this.
Basically, Legacy Management Global is an iceberg, or Afghan Russian nesting doll.
Russian nesting doll. Russian nesting doll.
Wellspring never even showed up, which means it's probably an offshoot of an offshoot.
Aren't you the guy that goes on stage and tells stories about demon sex cults and time traveling and pirate radio stations from another dimension?
So this guy is his friend who tries to keep in contact with him as he goes into this secluded high security house, and he's decoding the tapes, and he's trying to help his friend here, investigate, these tapes. And this is right down this guy's alley because he runs a podcast, and we'll get into that too, because it's got 5G Whiz written all over it. So let's keep watching here, because here you just heard him talk about how time travel and the occult are interrelated. This is another topic that we've covered extensively on this channel.
Yes, but that's my podcast, and this is real life.
Now, there's this other weird thing going on in the series, because it's not really weird because this is a dark series. All of the door, or not all of the doors, but many of the door numbers add up to 6. And in fact, the 6th floor is forbidden. No one's allowed to go on the 6th floor in the building. So this room number is 2D. So 2 and 4 is 6. And there's also a 4B room number. That's another 6. So of course, it's all about 666, right?
Stay away from the 6th floor.
That's the conclusion of the tour. Any comments or questions, put them in writing.
Do you have any advice for getting to know people in the building? Do you have any advice?
That's the conclusion of the tour. Any comments or questions, put them in writing.
Do you have any advice?
So you have 6 and a 6 and a 6. Now this woman, she's the one that recorded the tapes in 1994 that were later found. They were all burned and they had to be put back together and edited and everything.
Jess? Hello? The lights were off?
Here's a 1984 clue, and this is exactly where we're at now. It's all about 1984. Look at his shirt. It's the Ministry of Fear.
The lights were off?
Eleanor was part of a movement called Spirit Receivers.
Now we're going to get into these spirit receivers. Now, this is crazy. So the series gets into these spirit receivers, and they end up becoming the sacrificial victims. And what happens is, they explain it here, that the demons actually work through these creative people's art. So anything that they draw, or their voice, or a song that's composed, or anything like that, is the work of the demons working through them to manifest Satan's plan. And that's how they're chosen. Once they've been identified as someone whose voice or art is basically putting down Satan's plans, they then are chosen as the sacrifice. Now, this sounds a lot like Hollywood, doesn't it? We do a lot of these decodes, but when you really think about it, these writings of these films, these the plots of these films come out of a very small group of people called screenwriters. And then the directors help fine tune everything. But, the scripts all come out of these screenwriters. And I believe that that's who they're talking about here. They are these spirit receivers, and they publish Satan's agenda to deceive the world. Listen.
A radical group of abstract artists.
Now, this is a screenshot from the series, and in the middle here, you see the XIX card. Now, we've been talking all about this tarot card, haven't we? The 19th tarot card, and it depicts the rider on the white horse in some depictions of the card. Not all of the art is the same on these cards, but what is similar between the cards is the sun. This is the sun card. There's a corona, huge prominent corona around it, and there's usually a rider on a white horse wearing a crown and carrying a ribbon bow, just like in Revelation. Let's look at some of the other variations on this tarot card that were not in the series, but I pulled up that we'd covered in the past. Here's one here, and as you can see, there's a prominent wall, there's the solar corona, and this is actually called a trump card. Okay, it's called the trump card. So we know.
So I'm interrupting myself. We're back in 2025, and it's obvious now, many people are making the comparison, finally, of Trump being the rider on the white horse who can make war with the beast. So it's finally getting through to people with his Monroe Doctrine and conquering the entire hemisphere, putting pressure on Greenland now, cut off oil to Cuba. It's only a matter of time before Cuba falls. And here we were talking about it back in 2021 maybe, the Trump 19 sun card with the corona on it, COVID-19, Corona 19. It's got the Gemini twins on the front. Trump is a Gemini. It's got a wall on the front, and in some variations, it has a white horse. Let's keep watching.
Trump's a Gemini twins. We know he wanted to build a wall. We know he bought the bow and the crown, right? The toxone. We know he brought that, and we know that he wants to be Apollo, the sun. So this card is screaming Apollo. It's screaming Trump to me. keep going here. Here's another variation of the 19th card. This one is very specific. It has the ribbon, the bow. It has the crown on her head, a wreath of flowers, and it has also the crown of the sun and the prominent wall and the white horse. This is the Revelation 2 or 6:2 prophecy here playing out.
She belonged to a group of artists who called themselves spirit receivers.
In 1974, Eleanor and her sister Cassandra moved to New York City.
They believed mysterious beings were speaking through them to manifest art and beauty and truth.
Who explored roles as mediums for supernatural messages.
Some people called them a cult. Is that what you were asking about?
And established the wall galleries, where they exhibited the work of spirit receivers from the spirit realm and beyond.
No certainty of who or what she was communicating with.
So, the wall galleries. Now, that word wall, the Wall family, the Walmart family, right? We looked that up, and it means to smite or hit or to, like, kill. That's what the word wall means. It comes out of the word vol, which that's where the word Valentine's came up. Valentine's Day is coming up, isn't it? All this stuff is a cult. And this is what these people want to do, but they have to do it secretly because they do it right in our faces. People would rebel, drag them out of their homes, and that would be the end of that. So everything's a lie, the father of the lie. This is why Satan has to lie, because if he were to tell the truth about what he was trying to do, nobody would follow him, would they? So this goes on. And I also want you to know that I did my best to remove anything in this decode that would, be detrimental to your spiritual health. Okay, because we got to be careful with this stuff. As things begin to intensify in the spiritual battle, we don't want to be filling our heads with all kinds of crazy stuff. And so for that reason, I did not include images of the specific images from the ritual. I tried to leave out as much of the music as I could. And that's why you're seeing very short clips here. Now, after this particular aspect of the series, now we're going to switch gears and talk about comments. Now, like I said, we talked a lot about comments before. When Comment ISON came through, we had just started this channel. And that, I believe, is when the world really changed. The censorship increased. The machine was in place to begin to censor all the social media platforms, starting with YouTube, and then it trickled on from there. Google bought YouTube, and everything changed at that point. And there were obvious sacrifices going on, and as well as unapologetic tyranny. That's when it all kind of started, wasn't it? It was like 2012, 2013, somewhere in there. We also know that Handy Sook happened very close to Comet ISON as well. And I personally think that comets are visual representations of demonic spirits. And I believe that their close approaches are basically starting points for plague and for the enemy to unleash these things onto the world. It's often understood by people who have read history that the Black Death was said to have coincided with the approach of a comet. So I checked to see if there were any naked eye comets. Let's see if I have that pulled up here, that made their approach, during this time frame of when VidCo 19 started. And sure enough, there was. This is Comet Neowise. Many of you will remember this. It was one of the most recent comets that could be seen with the naked eye, and it popped off and was visible by the naked eye somewhere around when we were all locked down in our homes for the first 2 weeks. Right around March, April is when they were able to first start seeing this comet. Now, I think I have an image of this here. Here's an image of Neowise above Stonehenge. Look at that. Very prominent comet seen with the naked eye. And so now we're going to skip gears and talk about comets as it relates to the series.
It really was something to watch her create. No idea what her brushstroke would reveal. We can't begin to imagine the worlds which lie undiscovered. I only hope my Eleanor is waiting in one of them.
Aren't comets supposed to bring about end times or something?
Do you think that's science?
Maybe.
I'm writing about Comet Charon.
So, Comet Charon sounds like Charon, right? This is obviously what they were getting at. And it brings about death.
It used to be really famous. There were songs about it and everything, but...
So I looked up the word Charon, and look, you can see in the Greek, Charon or crown is spelled almost exactly like it, Korone. Okay? It's also spelled, there's other variations of it that look very close to what they're talking about here. Anything curved like a crown. And I looked it up in Bangla, which is a language, and the exact spelling of how they spell it in the series, means oozing, or what else does it say here? Dripping in English, oozing, exudation, and finally, destruction. And that's exactly what mold does.
Thank you all for being here tonight to celebrate the great comet Charon. To the heavens and the great night sky and all that lies within it.
Here, here.
Anyway, it's supposed to be visible in a couple weeks. Sam got me that new telescope, see?
It's Charonite.
Now, she pulls out, now this lady's evil. She's like part of the cult. And she pulls out this stone on a necklace. And it's Charonite, right? As you just heard her say. And it's the black goo or the mold. And she brings it out in this mason jar. And I believe what you're going to see next really symbolizes the ancient Egyptian canopic jars, which we've talked about at length as well on this channel. We explained in previous decodes that this black goo is the conduit to open up portals into people's souls, the serpent in the chest for demon possession.
It's very rare. They say it came from a comet.
The blacks are incredible.
Miss Eleanor makes it all room paint. Oh, wait a moment. Well, better it gets some use than waste away. Yes, here.
So that's like the canopic jar. This is clearly what they're getting at here. I'm shocked that she didn't bring it out in an actual canopic jar just to nail things down, but let's keep watching.
Take this.
Seriously?
Eleanor would want you to have it.
Maybe I can conjure something with this paint. Like Eleanor and her ghost strokes. This paint is like a portal into Eleanor's soul.
So now you know we're not making all this up, because it's repeated too many times in these types of series, almost as if they're watching the channel, but they're really not. I believe what they're doing is this is a spiritual battle. So as soon as it's disclosed on this channel, they have to hurry up and run around and try to figure out a way to whitewash it, but also continue the sorcery. Now, she gives her friend that jar, right? And so the friend starts using it to paint, and then she becomes one of these possessed spirit receivers. Now, understand that scientists are working on the same thing as we speak, trying to use the canopic black goo to reanimate these ancient pharaohs. And when they say that there is someone in there, that's the serpent in the chest. Let's watch.
Oh my god, it's just fucking amazing. I feel like I'm time traveling.
Do you understand now? It's time travel. That's what it is. It's possession. So when the goo reinfects a new host here in modern times, it feels like they're time traveling. They went from the past to the present, right?
There's someone in there, Mel.
There's someone in there. That's the portal.
There's someone in there.
So her friend goes crazy. She becomes a spirit receiver, and she's obsessed with the portal, the possession, right? Obviously. This is the girl when she was little. Same thing happened to her because she's part of the bloodline, but she doesn't know it yet.
What are these?
There's another place. There's something in there.
Holy shit.
So here's an Anubis sighting. Many of you know the ancient Egyptian god Anubis. He was the god of embalming the canopic jars, in case you had any doubts. And what they did was they preserved the internal organs of the pharaohs in these jars so that they could go into the quote-unquote afterlife. Well, what do you think that meant? The afterlife is now. And basically they're able to, the internal organs would degrade into this just disgusting black goo. And it was basically pure DNA of the fallen angels.
Those teeth?
So Anubis sighting there. Now the series is going to get into frequencies and their role in opening portals.
Whoa. Okay, back in 2025 here, she said, are those teeth? We now know, see how all this builds on each other? We now know that the teeth are the stem cells, right? Which would be the black goo. The stem cells of the ancient ones. And this is why Epstein had a dental chair on the island. He was removing stem cells. Wow. Let's keep watching.
And of course, that's another topic we've discussed at length as well. Now, these are some papers. We're going to break this down as well. But basically, since creation basically is held together by frequencies. And so it begs a question, are they integral in weakening the veil? Or at least the enemy thinks that they can. But creation is frequency. That's what creation is held together by. If you think about it, cymatics, the vibrations of the electrons, everything is vibrating at this frequency. And that's how our reality was created. Now, I believe that these frequencies are affected by EMFs or 5G whiz. Now, here are some papers that they actually talk about frequency, and these papers appear in the series here, as you can see. Let's read this abstract, because this is crazy. It says, everything in our world has its own electromagnetic resonance, a frequency at which all molecules vibrate. This frequency, more commonly known as the Schumann resonance, is supposedly the key to bringing our bodies into natural harmony with our environments. However, I believe that by altering the natural frequency at which a molecule vibrates, we are not merely putting molecules out of sync with our natural, let's go down here, with our natural resonance, but also creating a cross-dimensional bridge as the molecules attempt to sync with both its intrinsic resonance and its newfound frequency. So here's one of the papers. Now, who wrote these papers? Well, in the series, it's this guy's father. And this is when he discovered that his father was involved in the events that took place in 1984 that he's decoding on these films. Now, before they perform their ritual sacrifice to open the portal, they hit these tuning forks.
Great space.
And I think that's what the tuning forks represent, these frequencies. And they need to hit the tuning forks every time they try to pierce the veil. Now, here's his friend. Here is the podcast that he runs. And as you can see,
here for
Mystery Signals is the name of his podcast. That's got to be 5G Whiz. And look, it even forms a cross here in the middle. Okay. And
whoa. And Trump, 5G Whiz and beyond. Right? There's the T. T for Trump. Missed that the first time. Let's keep watching.
It almost looks like a G-Whiz tower, doesn't it? So, very weird. Now, I believe that all of this is happening right now, and that people have been acting very strange, haven't they? And I think all this has to do with frequency signals and combined with the Pokemon sticker. Notice how strangely all these NFL players are behaving. Have you guys heard about the Browns player, Malik McDowell? He got arrested for public exposure. He walked into a children's learning center completely naked. And then there's another Brown story here of a player losing it. Antonio Brown removed his jersey, stormed off the field without his jersey on. Nobody knew what he was doing. They're like, dude, are you like on something? Well, I believe that there's something to this. And I don't know what yet, but people are acting very bizarre. And it has something to do with everything that's happening right now.
It's likely some of these players got the sticker, right? This was January 2022. Wow.
You've also got female celebrities, for some reason, feeling like they have to take their clothes off at 50 and 60 years old, posting pics on their Instagrams. I know a lot of people have done this, but now it's like regular people. It's like people who never did this kind of thing before, starting to remove their clothes. So everybody's taking their clothes off and running around. It almost reminds me of the Flocka days. Remember that? And I'm wondering if this is the beginnings of spirit possession. I'm wondering if that has something to do with that. Here's another crazy story. This pastor in Tulsa, under fire for rubbing spit into a man's face during a sermon. Just people doing crazy stuff. I bet you all these people got the sticker.
I wonder if the guy was blind and he was trying to like heal him or something. Wow.
So there's some kind of phenomenon going on. I think it's going to worsen over time. So we talked about the papers that his dad wrote. We talked about the using vibrational frequency or electromagnetic resonance to open up gates to other worlds. And the EMF component to it, or the 5G whiz. And I think that'll be integral in becoming like the tuning forks that turn humanity into batteries to power up their portal so that they can open up the veil or the pit.
Your signals? Show's not till 8. Get your tickets to the door.
We might be able to talk about how he's handling his isolation.
Every world has its own frequency.
Here you see the somatic diagrams here Semitic readings, and they talk about every world having its own frequency. Let's back that up a little bit so you can hear that again. You heard the tone go off. Those are the tuning forks that they use.
Is isolation.
Every world has its own frequency. Finding the right one is the only way to open the door.
All those people in there you're planning to sacrifice.
Great, good.
I think they're at a party, Iris. Not being used as human batteries for your fucking jailbreak.
Human batteries. So there you go. Exactly what we've been talking about for her jailbreak. Now, this was in 1924. This was the first time that they opened the portal in 1924. And the building, again, burned down. And when that burned down, they built the Visser in its place, and that burned down too. So there were 2 building burnings. And it's important to remember that when we get to the end of the decode here, because it's all going to make sense. Now, another one of the dad's papers talks about how hallucinogens open portals too. And this is important because this ties into the whole mold mycotoxin release that can cause these kinds of hallucinations and behaviors. And in this abstract here, let me see if we can get a better image of that. It says, experience and hallucinatory perceptions of bipolar patients. Let's read this. The paper discusses the methods and effectiveness of Dr. Simone Mills' 1967 research on the ability of patients suffering from bipolar disorder to achieve states of heightened consciousness and perception through the use of hallucinogenic substances. While the scientific community has long dismissed Mills' research, mostly due to the unethical circumstances in which he conducted experiments, studying his results give us a vital window into how hallucinogenic agents can be used to expand our consciousness. Think of it this way. When people take ayahuasca, really what they're doing is communing with demons at that point. They're opening up these portals that were not meant to be opened. And they're going to try to do the same thing with the mold. And you're going to see how they're going to do it as we get into this decode. Now, there's one more paper that his dad wrote, and it's about night terrors. And I believe the night terrors are really just a spiritual attack on God's bloodline, because the enemies know the bloodlines too. And so they're coming after these people. So don't look at night terrors as necessarily a bad thing. It means you're someone special and that the enemy is coming after you early on in life. I had night terrors when I was just a child. And I remember, wanting to know why God wasn't protecting me. Well, as my life went on, I realized that the night terrors were just simply a fear mechanism that the enemy was using to throw me off the trail, to make me not believe in God. And that really they couldn't hurt you. I mean, I don't know. Some people, I guess, have been hurt having night terrors, and there's actual physical activity going on with these kinds of things, thrown around the room and things like that. But I never experienced that. I would just become frozen and a dark figure would enter the room, and I would just be terrified at like 5, 6, 7 years old. And I after a while, I would call out the name of God, and I felt protected. And then later in my life, he said, when you're in that state, understand that nothing bad can happen to you. It's just all fear. It's all in the mind. And if you fear God instead of the enemy, then nothing will happen to you. And many times I was able to wake myself up out of these states of night terror. So let's keep watching.
You made a TV show that never aired?
The Circle, yes. I'm afraid all the footage was lost after the accident.
I heard The Circle was inspired by a snuff film.
It inspired Daddy to create The Circle.
So the cult originated out of the first sacrifice that happened in 1924, in which they realized that they could capture the essence of these spirits with photography, and they became obsessed with it. And so they would keep sacrificing more and more, and they would try to capture it with photograph. And then they were like, wow, how much more could we capture with moving film? So then they got like a camera, this old 1924 camera, and they did the sacrifice and tried to see if they could capture any of this on film. And so this film that they're talking about here, called The Circle, they made that film to memorialize the ritual that somebody had seen with their own eyes. So you remember the decode that we did on CERN, on the CERN documentary by the same name? The CERN documentary was called The Circle, remember? And it was about the people that live in the villages above CERN. So The Circle is CERN. Let's keep watching.
All we have are the scripts, of course, but apparently Daddy went to some old occult lodge in the Hollywood Hills, very exclusive. Los Angeles was once the occult capital of the world, There were all sorts of skull and bones types in that town. After dinner, they were blindfolded and led through the canyon to an underground bunker, sworn to secrecy, and then they watched them. Mummy's quite sure it was a hoax, but apparently it was some kind of ritual sacrifice. Very gruesome.
And if this other world exists, some believe it lies at the very center of the circle. Perhaps you catch a glimpse of yourself across a crowded room. No, not a mirror. but another you.
So obviously there's a statement there about doppelgangers, another subject we've been talking about extensively. And because we looked at the first 7 generations from Adam to between Adam and Cain. And we realize that, first of all, the Bible mentions those 2 bloodlines separately. Cain is not included in Adam's bloodline in the Bible. And we noticed something else that was very strange, that every time Adam had a son, Cain would have a son and name him almost the exact same thing with a slight variation. How can that be? How is it that 2 different bloodlines have almost the same name? So, for instance, there's an Irad on Cain's side, and there's a Jared on Adam's side. Or I should say Seth. And then there's a Methuselah on Adam's side, or Seth's side, and there's a Methusael on Cain's side. Each bloodline has an Enoch, too. There's a good Enoch and a bad Enoch. And there are several more crossover names. It's unbelievable. So, this reminds me of doppelgangers, right? A mirror person of you who's evil in a different bloodline. So I don't know how this, I don't know the details of this, but that was just something we noticed when we looked at these 2 bloodlines. You can look it up yourself. Just go on and search for, the bloodlines of Seth compared to Cain, or Adam compared to Cain, and you'll see the names. You can just do a little acrostic. You just connect the lines on each of the sides, and they all match up. It's unbelievable. Let's keep watching.
He says he needs us to.
And that brings us to the mold. So this mold starts to grow in the Visser apartment building every time they do a sacrifice. And pretty soon it starts consuming the building. It's like inside of all the walls and everything. And they hit those tuning forks that we talked about as part of the ritual. And that releases the frequency to open the portals. Well, did you know that 5G Whiz encourages toxic mold growth? Did you know this? I got a couple articles pulled up here. And here's a doctor. Many of you have seen this. This is from the Mold Guy website, and he talks about this doctor named Dr. Klinghardt, who discovered a connection between EMF and mold. During his research, he found that EMFs could be responsible for driving certain molds to produce mycotoxins. In other words, electromagnetic fields could be making molds more aggressive and reactive. And then here's another source who says the same thing. This is moldhelpforyou.com, and they say the exact same thing. Mycotoxins. In other words, electromagnetic fields could be making molds more aggressive and reactive. So I wanted to see if Dr. Klinghardt had been fact-checked, and in fact he has not. I typed in Klinghardt mold fact-check, and nobody's fact-checked this guy. So his findings seem to be legit. So think of the implications of that. We're now surrounded by G-Wiz towers all over the place. And I'm starting to see a phenomenon occur, and I don't know if you guys have as well, that this mold is growing out of control, growing in places where it didn't used to grow, in cities that it didn't used to grow. And this may all be part of some kind of massive bioweapon. Now, listen to what the series says about the mold, and we'll keep going with this.
Open it.
But another you.
He says he needs us to open a door.
Who needs you to open the door?
No, don't worry. I didn't give your friend a taste.
A taste of what?
Stardust. It grows here. It shimmers. Haven't you seen it?
What's stardust? Heroin?
The mold. The walls. The floors. The lungs. Running through this building like deep, dark veins. One hit. It's like another world opens up. And there's no going back.
She's been using this paint. I think it's made out of some kind of mold that grows in our building. The moment she started using it, she was a completely different person. Mold.
Now, what I think they're talking about here when they're talking and explaining the mold, I believe this goes back to these abominations inside of the walls spoken about in Ezekiel. The cult of Tammuz.
What about mold?
Mold. It's possible ingesting or breathing a neurotoxic mold could cause hallucinations or other kinds of neurological damage.
So the mold infects, it opens a victim up to possession as well as, spiritual attack. Now, the mold, as you're going to see here, grows in these spiral patterns on the walls and around here, or almost like a somatic pattern is what it looks like. Some kind of somatic readout frequency is what it looks like. You know, sand self-organizes in these somatic models that they have. They basically put a speaker, a vibration, some kind of vibration or sound source underneath a medium that is that can move, like sand. You could use probably sugar, things like that. And then they send these sound waves through onto the surface of where the medium is, and it self-organizes into these geometric patterns, which should be able to happen. It should be random, right? But it's not. So when you hit a certain note, it organizes and forms these perfect geometric shapes out of the sand and out of the salt. It's unbelievable. It's basically supernatural.
Now I'm going to pause here. Let's go back to you guys. Are you guys enjoying this? Are you getting something out of this? As we come to the close of Archive 81, what you just heard was that the guy basically said that the mold is called star dust. And he said it grows everywhere like veins going through the building. And this is going to be kind of gross, but I watched this guy who does vermin abatement with a pellet gun. And he does it with a night, like a night scope on a pellet gun. So he's doing it at night. And he does this on farms because apparently rats and mice can go out of control on farms. And I noticed something interesting. When he would shoot the rat, now the word rat is star backwards, right? So stardust, rat dust. When you shoot the rat, and this happens every single time, no matter how lethal the pellet is, it could go straight through the brain, but it never fails. When the rat dies, what happens? Do you guys know? Does anyone know the answer? What happens after you shoot a rat? For those of you that have watched those videos, because they're pretty viral, he just sits there at night with night vision and shoots like 100 rats. And I was like, why am I watching this? But there's a reason why I was watching it, because it actually fits into all this. What happens after you shoot a rat? Does anyone know? Let's see who's on. Let's see who's picking up what I'm putting down. Okay. I'm just going to give you the answer. When a rat is shot, when it's clearly already dead, its tail spins around in a spiral. Its legs and feet spiral around. And you have to wonder if the spiral is its spirit going back through the spiral portal to God. God created everything. So the spirit leaves in a spiral through the portal. Now, if you think I'm making all this up, go on to Facebook on your feed and type in vermin abatement or night vision shooting rats, and you'll see it 100 times in a row. Literally, when our spirit leaves, it goes through a portal, a spiral back to God, likely. And I just couldn't even believe what I was seeing. And that makes sense because it's exactly what they said here. The mold makes these spirals on the wall. Entering the building. Let's watch.
It's basically supernatural. There you see the spiral patterns on the wall, or somatic patterns of the mold growth. So doesn't this sound like the abominations in Ezekiel inside of the wall? The cult of Tammuz. Now you're going to hear her say next, body and blood. But of course, this is not the body and blood of Christ. This is the body and blood of evil. So it would be the Antichrist.
This is what proves it's not a dream. This is the fruit of our faith and devotion.
Now, every time the main character goes into the interdimensionally and communicate with the girl, you'll see these mold spores floating around his head and all around the room. It reminds me kind of I Pet Goat, where you see these, what we thought were snowdrifts, and I guess they probably are, but they're everywhere. And I wonder if that was a harbinger about this mold growth growing everywhere.
Iris Voss,
very Madame Blavatsky. She came over from Europe after World War I. Woman.
So her name's Iris, of course. That's also a portal, the window to the soul in your eyes. So it's a perfect name that they gave this woman, Iris, from 1924, who kind of started the cult. And they explain that here.
In the middle. She's the ringleader.
Evie Crest claimed that the circle was inspired by a snuff film her father saw in some Skull and Bones bachelor party in the 40s.
Very soon, the comet will pass so close to the Earth that you'll be able to see it with your very own eyes. We'll have a grand party to celebrate the good luck and fortune it will bring. Not to mention the thinning of the veil between the worlds.
It's a manifestation of the divine. It's the matter of a shared universe, body and blood.
His body and blood. They're pushing through the veil that separates us. He's calling to us.
So, of course, the
comet dust pushing through the veil, body and blood. I'm just giving you, some, because it's kind of hard to hear. So I want to make sure you guys can hear that. Here's the ritual.
Let's go on, Illuminati all over this. So I left out most of the ritual. Here's the creepy graven image. I'm not going to show you that.
The comet opens the door. Cassandra told me they're going to open the door tonight.
Oh, the ritual is happening tonight.
She's up there.
The comet?
I need your help to get her out.
Now, so what does all this mean? Well, with the mold and everything. Well, it means we've been experiencing exponential toxic mold growth in our time due to these increased EMF levels. And it didn't start with 5. It could have started with 2, couldn't it have? Because they're all EMF. I mean, the more electricity that you have around you, the more these mold mycotoxins release. And
now I'm going to interrupt myself again because you guys will remember during when Trump signed 5G in 2020, I told you that copper was going to be needed for 5G. Remember those videos? That was 5 years ago, you guys. And then the coin shortage. And I told you guys, this was the beginning of the end of money. And that in circulation, there were millions, maybe even billions of metric tons of copper core coins that they were intentionally pulling out of circulation, melting down the copper core, and creating our prison, 5G, 6G, and beyond. Now, today, in 2025, they've run out of copper. There's literally a copper shortage now. The price of copper is almost worth as much as gold. Well, I don't know if it's worth as much as gold, but it has shot up exponentially. Now, how did I know that all of that was going to happen? Well, I don't know anything. God knows everything. And if you be still and know that He's God, He tells His people who trust Him and follow Him what the future is going to be so that you can be prepared. Remember I told you, don't invest in this economic system, that it's all going to fall down. It's all going to come crashing down because it's built on sinking sand. But everyone's so happy because their 401ks are through the roof. Well, look at what Bitcoin's doing right now. And I know all this is they say these are long-term investments, right? Oh, it doesn't matter if it's down now. What matters is, you're in it for the long run. Well, if you're investing in America right now with everything that's going on, it's sure to fail. I'm sorry, but it's the truth. And this is what the Bible says. Moths and rust will destroy it. Moth. A moth would eat paper, like a paper currency. So the Bible predicted the dollar bill. Rust would be, I don't think gold rusts, but other metals do, precious metals. Let's keep watching.
And so that is a profound revelation because up to this point, no one, I don't think, really thought about this. And maybe you in the chat have taken note of mold growing where when you were younger, in your younger years, you didn't remember all this mold growing everywhere. So they basically want to make all of humanity fall under this mind-altering mycotoxins to open us all up for possession. Somehow it's going to be able to open these gates and people will be much more easily influenced. And so that's what I think they're heading with this. Now, you heard them say that the mold is the fruit of their faith, the body and blood. And when we link this back to Tammuz, we understand that Tammuz also had as his symbol a cross. He was the knockoff Christ. So instead of the body and blood of Christ, we have the body and blood of Tammuz, the Antichrist. Now, when they do this ritual, understand that there are some very graphic and troubling scenes, and I'm not showing you these in this decode. And I don't recommend you watch this series. I truly believe that the people that do these kinds of decodes are messengers of God. You know, we're here to help wake people up to understand that everything that comes through your television is from the enemy. And it doesn't mean you have to turn it off, but at least understand what you're looking at, because this is our reality. I mean, unless you're willing to go completely into the wilderness and cut yourself off from everything, then we all have to come to terms with the fact that we are in this reality. We're in the world, but not of it, right? And that is in the Bible. But unless you have special armor to withstand this stuff, then this can negatively affect you. Okay, and so you don't want this stuff in your head. You don't want this. So I'm trying to do this decode in a way to where I can show you what the messages are without exposing you to the evil. Okay, so let's keep watching. So then what else do we have here? Now, let's just go back to this weird thing here. So what they do, I'll just explain it to you very quickly. Let's play this here. So what they do is they take the bloodline and they pour it onto this thing and it fills up all these cracks inside of his, and it's like supernatural. It like basically is anti-gravitical. It goes upwards and downwards and sidewards. And it's really creepy to look at, which is why I didn't show it to you.
The comet opens the door. Cassandra told me they're going to open the door tonight.
Oh, the ritual is happening tonight.
He's up there.
The comet?
Now, this next part is pretty chilling because how long have we been talking about the trees of the garden? And we discovered that they probably represent the different frames of reality, the different laws of physics. Well, listen to this guy repeat almost verbatim what we've been saying in previous shows. This is crazy.
I need your help to get her out.
It's not a hospitable environment for a human being. Time and space do not operate in the same way. No one can survive in there for any length of time. The mechanics of that universe are entirely different. I've spent the better part of 20 years researching the properties of this dimension, formulating a strategy to access its powers.
I don't know what to tell you. She's in there. I need to get her out. Davenport said it was impossible for a human to survive in there.
It will be disorienting. Time doesn't move in the same way. And he'll want to keep you there, Kalego. He'll want you to stay. He'll try to trick you into surrendering.
Wait, what does that mean exactly?
He's desperate. Lonely.
So the main character goes through the veil and he's to try to rescue the girl, but he gets sent back to 1994 when the building caught fire. He was actually in the fire. So the final scene that you're going to see here of the entire series is a reflection of another pair of buildings that caught fire. Of course, that would be the Slim Towers. Watch.
How did I get here?
Well, all I know is that you were luckier than the rest.
The rest?
Did you live there? Were you close to your neighbors?
Live where?
The Visser. So tragic. All those people.
What year?
I'll be right back.
So he turns on the TV and he sees that it's the day that Kurt Cobain died, 1994. So he has been transported in time. Now, I don't know the Kurt Cobain aspect to this, how that fits in. I didn't go down that rabbit hole because it's a whole nother rabbit hole. But watch what he does. He gets up, he walks to the window, and you're going to see the Slim Towers. And now you know why these buildings caught fire. It was to open a portal. Like we've been saying for the last 5 years, this was a ritual to open the veil, to tear the veil. And we had talked about the spiritual significance of this whole center, right? The fact that the building 7, I'm being careful with my words here because they don't like you to talk about this stuff, and I don't want this video to get suppressed. But building 7 represented Christ. The 2 towers represented the 2 magnetic fields of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. 2 opposing magnetic fields. This is why we can never come together, because our entire physical reality is based on opposites, or a positive and negative, I should say. And so this is why we have a positive, negative political system. The enemy built the construct in that way so that people could never come together to overthrow their controllers. Okay, so all you got to do is keep dividing people. Divide, divide, divide. This is what the enemy does. He's done some of that here in the truth community too. That's why I keep trying to tell you, guys, channels that sit and focus on calling other channels shield, that's the divide and conquer mentality, because they claim more street cred because they're calling out and infiltrating the community and saying that these people are infiltrators. So it's okay to mention that sometimes, but if they've built their entire channel on just sitting around nitpicking other channels, that tells you something. That's of the enemy, trying to do the exact same paradigm that he's used to divide Americans and people all around the world. Okay, so what you have here is these 2 trees, tree of the knowledge of good and evil. It's actually one tree, but it's split up into good and evil. And this is the prison we're trapped in. This is why the people were trapped in there. The Wicker Man, we'll get more into that as well. The Wicker Man cult of building a building and then trapping everyone in it and lighting it on fire. This is what the Wicker Man cult was all about. And so the enemy wants to burn it all down with everything in it. And this is what this represents. Then he made his own single tower so that he could bring it all back under his rule. And that's where we're heading toward next. If you're not part of his single tower, if you're not into free love and do what you will, then you become persecuted, I should say. And that's where we're all headed. We can all feel it now. We're entering this new dimension where they're not going to basically, they're going to have no mercy basically at a certain point. And this is when you want to be as far away from these cities as possible. This is what I've been telling you guys. So God's been warning me about over and over again over the last several years. So that's
okay, so that's the end of the decode. I'm going to go back with you guys, and we are going to look up the Kurt Cobain aspect, because I remember after that decode, Kurt Cobain, someone had made a connection to it. Okay, let's see here. 220, he was born and died on April 5th at 27 years old. Okay. Now, the other thing I want to look up is comets from the year 2001 to see if there was a close approach comet on 9/11, and to see if that was all right. Okay, in 2001, notable comets included C2001A2, Linear, and Q4, the NEAT. It was called NEAT, which paired with another comet for rare simultaneous viewing. So we had twin comets in 2001 when the Twin Towers fell. Wow. Oh, Linear is the viewing device, I guess, or the telescope. So the comet was called A2 and Q4. A2 and Q4. Let's see, what dates did they happen on? Discovered in January. Significant comet discovered in August. Became visible with binoculars. Okay. Doesn't say. Let's type in September. Deep Space Mission. Borelli. September 22nd. So that was after. Okay, I just wanted to see if there was a close approach comment. Let's go back in here with you guys. And wow, what a trip, right? Okay, I'm in the chat now. We're in 2025. It's, in my eyes, it's helpful to go back in time and look at some of these old decodes because we can learn something, right? We're able to put more pieces of the puzzle together. So, Linear is the name of a character on Babylon 5. 01, the first year of a new millennium. Yes, 2026. Thank you. My goodness. I said 2025 about 5 times, didn't I? We are in 2026. Thanks, Rebecca. Year of the Fire Horse. Are comets wandering stars? Could be. They orbit the sun, just like the other wandering stars, so. Love you too, thanks. All right, you guys. Well, we're not going to have time to get into The Last of Us. We'll do that on tomorrow's show, and I'll pair that with some other headlines, if any come up. Yes, it is the year of the Fire Horse. Let's look that up real quick before we get off here. Okay, let's see here. Year of the Fire Horse. See if there's anything to this. Woman born in the year of the Fire Horse was a strong temperament and shortens her husband's life. Oh, joy. There are many fires in the year of the Fire Horse. Uh-oh. Fire. I wonder if that's what Trump was talking about when he blew up Venezuela. Wow. There will be many fires. Trump said, welcome to 2026. Wow. Now, it's interesting because I heard grumblings that Venezuela appeared in iPad Code 2. Now, I haven't seen any of those decodes, but I can imagine that one such example of that would be, see if we can, let's do this. Let's just go over here. Let's just go here. Let's pull this up. You gotta be careful. Okay, let's go to this part. I can imagine that what people might be talking about, let's see, it would be right here. This part. Now there's an Independence Day aspect to this. Here's a sickle and hammer. That would be communism. This is what Trump has accused Maduro of being a communist. Let's turn the sound off here. This is insane, you guys. And directly after this scene, now remember, iPad Go 2 has nested meanings. We found multiple meanings inside some of the stuff. You see what it, to me, appears to be a carcass. The carcass of an animal, which sounds like Caracas. There's also a link to Ukraine, because there's the governing body of Ukraine is called a caucus or a carcass. We looked that up. So here you have the tanks rolling in. And remember, we found a New Year's aspect to this, because in Haiti, their New Year's is on the 4th of July or something like that. Wait, was it January 1st is their Independence Day? That's what it is. And so there's Baron Samedi, right? And then he's inside the carcass, Caracas, Ukraine, carcass. Government. Look all this up for you guys. Here it is. Tushki in Ukrainian. used in Ukrainian politics to refer to members of parliament who switched factions. They're called carcasses. Tushki. Derogatory term. So, this scene applies to both Caracas and Ukraine. Whoa. Now, that's about the extent of what I could find in I Pet Goat 2 related to what's going on right now in the world. But wow, the year of fire. We had our first fire with the attack on Venezuela. We'll see what else there is in here. The Fire Horse. East Asian Age Reckoning. Whoa. 1666. It's when this person was born, related to the Fire Horse. 18 years old. That's 666. She was burned at the stake. Wow. Let's see who this woman is here. Yashi Oshiki. What the heck? Died on the 88th day of the year. Gosh, that's my birthday. 1683. Whoa, we're in for a crazy year, you guys. What a trip. Let's keep looking here. So who is this woman they're talking about? This is the origin of the superstition. That a woman born in the year of the Fire Horse has a strong temperament and shortens her husband's life. It is said the superstition in early Edo period that there are many fires in the year of the Fire Horse changed to a superstition about a woman's marriage because Yaoshi Oshiki was believed to have been born during the Fire Horse. In the Edo period, all human ages were counted using East Asian age reckoning, and if Yaoye Oshiki was born during the Fire Horse in 1666, then she would have been 18 years old, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so let's see what else is in here. Wow. Whoa, there's 1966. A lot of 66s and twinning of that number related to Trump, isn't there? These people follow the occult, you guys. Now we're in the year of the Fire Horse. The World Bank has speculated that the trend will not continue in 2026. What? Remember, Maduro was not part of the World Bank. Wow. Welcome to Bizarro World, you guys. All right. Well, I hope you guys got something out of this. I love each and every one of you. I'll see you tomorrow with Mold Apocalypse number 7, or number 8 is tomorrow. All right, you guys, take care.